The outsider. You are 9 years old, 1778. The air at Brienne-le-Château feels cold in a way that has nothing to do with weather. The stone walls are clean, the routines are strict, and every boy here seems to know exactly where he belongs. You do not. Your accent marks you immediately Corsican, different, an outsider before you even open your mouth. Their uniforms look newer, their confidence louder. Yours is quieter, worn at the edges, but still holding. They speak easily with each other, laughing, forming bonds that shut you out without effort. So you stop trying to fit into their world. Instead, you turn inward. While they talk, you read. While they play, you study. History, mathematics, war, you absorb it all with a kind of focus that doesn't need approval. When winter comes, you build snow fortresses and defend them like they matter, like they are real battles with real consequences. No one else takes it that seriously, but you do. Because even at 9, something is already clear to you. You may not belong here, but you will not stay small. Belonging is something others chase. Power is something you can build. The hungry officer. You are 16 years old, 1785. Your father is gone, and with him, whatever thin layer of stability your family had left. Responsibility arrives early and without warning. You graduate from École Militaire faster than most, not because life is generous, but because it has no reason to wait for you. You are commissioned as an artillery officer, a role that carries more calculation than glory. The pay is small, the expectations are not. Every decision now has weight, not just for you, but for the family depending on what you become. While others chase reputation and recognition, you narrow your focus. Artillery rewards precision, not charm, angles, distance, timing. These are things you can control, so you study them relentlessly. You read late into the night, running numbers in your head until they feel instinctive. You do not waste time trying to be liked. That has never worked for you anyway. Instead, you aim for something far more useful. In a world that ignores you, being necessary is power. The revolution opens the door. You are 24 years old. 1793, France is unstable, loud, and dangerous. The old order is collapsing, and no one is certain what replaces it. Power shifts daily. Men who once gave orders now wait for them. Others disappear overnight. In the middle of this chaos, you arrive at the Siege of Toulon, a city held by enemies and defended with confidence. Most officers follow routine, placing their artillery where tradition says it should go. You do not. You study the terrain, the angles, the weaknesses no one else is looking at. You move the guns to positions that seem risky, even wrong, but mathematically unavoidable. When they fire, everything changes. The enemy loses control of the harbor, and the city begins to fall apart from the inside. The victory is fast, decisive, and impossible to ignore. For the first time, people begin to say your name with attention instead of dismissal. In a broken system, rank no longer belongs only to the well-born. It belongs to the effective. Revolution is not just chaos. It is a gap in the structure, and you are learning how to move through it faster than anyone else. The whiff of power. You are 26 years old, 1795. Paris feels tense, like something is about to break. The government is weak, and the streets are restless. Rumors move faster than orders. A royalist force begins to gather, angry, organized, and ready to take the city back. The men in charge hesitate. They debate, delay, and hope the problem will solve itself. It won't. Eventually, the responsibility lands on you. Stop the uprising before it reaches the heart of the city. You do not overcomplicate it. You position artillery at key choke points and wait. When the crowd advances, you act immediately. No speeches, warnings, or second chances. Grape shot tears through the front lines, and the momentum collapses almost instantly. What could have become a prolonged civil conflict ends in minutes. Paris goes quiet again, but this time it is different. People now understand something about you that cannot be ignored. You do not hesitate when the moment demands action. In unstable times, that alone is enough to separate you from everyone else. The Italian storm. You are 27 years old, 1796. You are given command of the Army of Italy, and it looks like a punishment more than an opportunity. The soldiers are hungry, their uniforms worn, their confidence low. Supplies are scarce, and expectations from Paris are even lower. No one believes this army can achieve anything significant. When you arrive, you don't promise comfort. You promise movement. You study your enemies carefully and notice something others missed. They are stronger, but they are slow and divided. That is enough. You begin to move your army faster than anyone expects, striking separate enemy forces before they can combine. Each victory builds momentum. Each success feeds belief. You speak directly to your soldiers, not like distant authority, but like someone who shares their hardship. You march with them, eat what they eat, and demand speed and discipline in return. Slowly, the army changes. They stop thinking of themselves as forgotten and start believing they are unstoppable. Battle after battle, you turn weakness into advantage and confusion into control. By the time others realize what is happening, it is already too late. Loyalty is no longer tied to the Republic. It is tied to you. The man who crowns himself. You are 35 years old, 1804. The country is tired of uncertainty. Years of revolution have left people wanting stability, something firm they can rely on. Your name now carries that weight. Inside Notre Dame Cathedral, everything is prepared for a traditional coronation. The Pope stands ready to place the crown on your head, following centuries of custom. The room is full, watching closely, expecting the usual order of things to unfold. But you do not follow the script. You step forward, take the crown into your own hands, and place it on your head yourself. The moment is quiet, but the message is loud. You are not being given power. You are claiming it. No one interrupts. No one objects. They simply watch and accept what is happening. From that point on, it is clear to everyone that your authority does not come from tradition or permission, but from your own decision to take it. The machine of war. You are 36 years old, 1805. Europe gathers against you, forming alliances built on fear of what you have become. They believe numbers and coordination will be enough to stop you. At the Battle of Austerlitz, you study them carefully and see their confidence as a weakness. You make your army look smaller, weaker, vulnerable. You let them think they understand your position. They move forward, convinced they are about to win. Then you change everything. Your forces strike at the exact moment they are most exposed, splitting their lines and breaking their structure. Confusion spreads, and what looked like a strong army turns into a collapsing one. The victory is complete and undeniable. Leaders retreat, alliances crack, and your control over Europe grows even stronger. At this point, you are no longer just leading battles. You are shaping outcomes before they even begin. The cracks in the empire. You are 41 years old, 1812. You stand at the edge of Russia with the largest army Europe has ever seen. Everything about this campaign suggests another victory. You have won again and again, and there is no clear reason this should be different. But as you advance, something feels wrong. The enemy does not meet you directly. They retreat deeper into their own land, destroying food, burning towns, leaving nothing behind. Every step forward costs more than expected, and there is nothing to gain from it. When you finally reach Moscow, it is empty and silent, a city without life or reward. Then winter arrives, faster and harsher than you planned for. Your army begins to break down. Cold, hunger, exhaustion. The retreat becomes unavoidable, but it is no longer controlled. What started as a confident advance turns into a slow collapse. For the first time, the system you built does not respond the way you expect. This is not a battle you can win with speed or strategy. This is the moment where control begins to slip. The fall. You are 45 years old, 1814. Your empire is shrinking from every direction. Armies that once avoided you now move toward you with confidence. Allies begin to disappear one by one, choosing survival over loyalty. Your marshals hesitate, and hesitation spreads faster than defeat. The pressure builds until it reaches Paris, and when the city falls, everything changes at once. The structure you spent years building no longer holds. You are forced to step down, not in battle, but through decision. They send you to Elba, a small island with limited space and even more limited purpose. The pace of your life slows in a way you have never experienced. There are no urgent messages, no armies waiting, no decisions that shape nations. For the first time, you are surrounded by silence. And in that silence, one thing becomes clear. Power that once kept expanding has now reached its edge. The return. You are 46 years old, 1815. The island of Elba is too small for a man who once controlled Europe. The silence is heavy, and it does not suit you. So, you leave. Not with a grand army or a detailed plan, but with a decision. You land in France knowing full well that troops have been sent to stop you. This is not a careful move. It is a direct one. When you face the soldiers sent against you, you do not hide behind strategy. You walk toward them alone and make yourself visible. For a moment, everything depends on what they choose to do. Then, something shifts. No shots are fired. Instead of resisting, they step forward and join you. What could have ended instantly turns into momentum. You move toward Paris, and the path opens as you go. This time, you don't take power with force. You take it with belief. The last gamble. You are still 46 years old, 1815. Everything comes down to one place, the Battle of Waterloo. You know this is not just another campaign. There are no second chances after this. The ground is wet from rain, slowing movement, delaying your plans. Small problems begin to stack, and timing starts to slip. Your enemies hold their position longer than expected, and the window you needed begins to close. You push forward anyway, trying to force the outcome, but the situation is no longer fully under your control. Reinforcements arrive, but not for you. The balance shifts, and the line begins to break. What once felt recoverable now feels final. This time, there is no sudden turnaround, no decisive strike that saves the day. The momentum is gone, and with it, everything you rebuilt. The end of the Emperor. You are 51 years old, 1821. The island of St. Helena is far from everything that once defined your life. There are no armies here, no politics, no urgency. The days move slowly, almost without meaning. The world you once controlled continues without you, and there is nothing you can do to shape it anymore. The distance is not just physical, it is absolute. You spend your time thinking, looking back at everything you built and everything you lost. The victories, the decisions, the risks, they all led here. You once held power that stretched across Europe, and now it exists only in memory. There is no return this time, no final move to make. What remains is not the empire, but the story. And the story is the only thing that does not fade.